Oh, it's running out of battery. It's got a bit of space on there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm here, not to moan. I promise you, no moan today. I'm just doing my VAT return, and I'm looking at my invoicing and the changes that eBay has made to the portal. I believe they're getting ready for the digital tax returns that are coming in on a quarterly basis. That's topical, and it's on my radar at the moment as well, because my next quarterly period is going to be reduced from 3 months to 2 months in order to match the quarterly digital return for tax purposes. That's what my accountant suggested, and I think it's a good idea, so that going forward it will roll and they will match at the same time. I'll do my VAT and my digital reporting at the same time. It'll keep my costs lower, and it'll stop my accountant from having to chase me for lots of numbers. So it makes sense to do that, and I kind of feel that eBay's kind of prepared for that. They've changed the portal, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, you know, eBay is such an easy target for us to beat up on. For sure there are things wrong with eBay, but I'll tell you something, all things being equal, when you weigh it up, I've got to be honest, I've got to put my hand on my heart, and I've got to basically tell you and eBay, I love eBay. I do. I really do. eBay changed my life. It gave me an opportunity that I never had in the years leading up to when I started selling on eBay. You know, when I was a kid, all the way through my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, I was always scratching around and looking for a business that I could start. I used to get stuck in loops, and I'd research a business opportunity only to abandon it to go and jump on another one, and I'd research that to death, and then I'd abandon it and I'd go back to the one that I'd previously abandoned, and I was stuck in these loops, and I could never ever see an opportunity out there. Of course you can go and stand on the markets, but the markets, you know, the hard standing markets in the local city, in my case it was the rag market, that was declining. You know what I mean? They changed all the bus system. They made it a clean air zone, and nobody went to the city anymore. And maybe you could do car boots, but you know, it never gave me the feeling that I could basically make it a living, until one day I sold an old Satnav that I had, an old TomTom, and I put it on eBay just to see what would happen. And it sold like in 10 minutes, and it kind of woke me up. But what woke me up more importantly was that the money for the sale went into a PayPal account that I didn't realise I had. And that was it. I saw a light at the end of the tunnel, and I got busy. I mean, immediately busy. And I went to a local warehouse, and I started photographing everything that they sold, and I put them on eBay just to see if I could sell, you know, if there was a demand for it. And when I got a sale, I used to run off to the warehouse and buy it and then send it out. And that's how I started, from a bedroom. With you know, the principle at the time was to start on a shoestring, and not to incur any heavy costs. And the costs were extremely low. It's something I did from home, and I got sales. And you know, my first month, it was only a 2-week month, because I started in the middle of that month. I think it was August 2011. And I sold 400 quid's worth of gear that I didn't even have in my hands. And then the following month it went to, I think it was £800, it doubled, and then the month after that it doubled again. And I kind of got sucked into it, you know, and because I was seeing these sales. They weren't profitable, because I still had costs to incur, you know, fees to pay eBay and so on. A little bit of profit. Not a profit that I could live on. Might have made something like £5 to £10 a day profit. But I carried on going, and my sales doubled, and then they doubled, and they doubled. And it was just a massive... Eventually, I went and bought all the stuff from the warehouse that I'd actually photographed. And I maxed out this bedroom, and I was eventually tiptoeing around this bedroom, and I had to go and get an office. And my costs went up, but my sales went up, because I could start carrying more gear. And eventually I ended up in this unit, and it's maxed out now. And, you know, I did have a bad experience with eBay cancelling all my listings once over the VAT issue. I was registered for VAT, and I had my VAT number in the system. Now I'm coming onto the moan. I don't want to moan, but they cancelled all my listings, and it was something to do with the glitch in the system, and they kept writing to me to put it in there, and every time I phoned up and said it's there, The people on the phone said, yeah, it's there, don't worry about it, it's a glitch. Then on Friday afternoon, they cancelled everything. I rather suspect it had nothing to do with the VAT number. I think they thought that all my listings were stale and they wanted to get me to get go and start again and relist everything again. So they cancelled the lots. That's what I think they did. But it's interesting because I'm starting to see people say the similar things on Facebook groups. They're saying I've got 350 listings and eBay have cancelled half of them. Saying, I think the message is, those listings are no longer visible on the system. They're stale. There's something wrong with the listing. Either the pricing's not right, your photographs are rubbish, or you've set it up incorrectly in the first place and you haven't put enough item specifics in place and things like that. And I think they're thinking, the only way that we can actually get through to these people is this army of online micro sellers is cancel those listings, get them to do it again. Because they can't get on the phone and talk to you, because the telephone operators would be on there having an argument with you for 2 hours, wouldn't they? So there'd be a big pushback from us. So the best thing they can do is send the algorithm out and cancel all the listings and say start again. That's what I'm thinking. And I reckon I've got about 600 or 700 non-performing listings, and I'm going to go and check to see if they're still live. But as I'm going through my quarterly VAT returns, I'm capturing all the numbers and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what, it's so easy. eBay is so easy to beat up. But I'm telling you something. When I first started my account on eBay, I could not make head nor tail of the help guides. It was like an organic system. They'd basically sort of, we've got to put this policy in place and this procedural change, and they'd change something on the right hand side and it impacts something on the left hand side, and they wouldn't necessarily know. And it was all higgledy-piggledy back in those days, and I couldn't make head. I kept going round and round in a loop trying to understand eBay, and I thought, get rid of that, just do it, just work through the actual listing tools that they give you and just do it. And I think that's why I created some legacy problems. But the help pages are so much better now. But I'm just not the type of person to basically sit down and read pages and pages and pages of help guides. I get bamboozled. I get irritable. It irritates me. So I'm the kind of guy that if we're going to teach you how to fly a helicopter. I got a friend who, I've said this before, he had a bit of a photographic memory. You could give him a manual on how to fly a helicopter, and he'd read it page for one after the other, page it, and he'd get in the helicopter and he'd fly it. Me, couldn't do that. I'd have to get in the helicopter and try and fly it. It'd be all over the bloody place, but I'd suss it. You know what I mean? I'd become a helicopter pilot in about 10 minutes. A bit like the guy from the A-Team. Do you remember him? The Meshuggah one. The guy, the A-Team, there was like 5 mercenaries or something like that, but there was one that could basically get in an airplane and just fly it. That's me. Anyway, the thing is, I'm looking at, the way eBay, I'm comparing eBay's business with how it used to be, and it is so much better. We like to gripe about eBay and moan about them, but you go and compare that business, eBay, with Amazon and TikTok, and I can't wrap my head around TikTok or Amazon. I just can't. There's far, far, far too many rules and regulations and hoops to jump through. eBay is, really at the end of the day, is a simple proposition. And it is a very simple business, really. They still have to put all the controls and checks and everything in place to actually prevent scammers and people from duplicate listings and all that kind of thing. But eBay changed my life. And I'll be eternally grateful for that, because it changed it for the better. It kind of grounded me. It gave me some optimism. It gave me a future to work for. I remember sitting in my bedroom one day, measuring some ribbon, 5 meters of ribbon somebody had bought, and they'd bought it 4 or 5 different colours. And I was looking at it was kind of the time when I realised that it was to my advantage to sell for free postage, because prior to that I used to sell it for the cost of the product plus postage, and customers were always waiting for me to send a new invoice with reduced postage. But when I moved on to free postage, and I was measuring this 5 meter piece of ribbon 4 or 5 times, different colours, that day, I realised that the profit was there. That the postage inside the price became my profit, and I got very excited by that. And I remember standing there thinking to myself, something. I mean, I'd gone through a bereavement. I'd lost my mother and everything, and I was for 2 years, I was sitting in my bedroom really depressed for 2 years. Didn't do anything, just feeling sorry and sad for myself, you know. And that day, when I sold that Satnav and when I eventually measured this ribbon, I realised that I could do this for the rest of my working life, possibly even into retirement, you know. And I didn't have to kind of engage with the world. I didn't even have to speak to customers. I didn't even have to handle the money. It just went into the bank, you know what I mean? All I had to do was order product online from a warehouse. It would be delivered to my house. I'd get sales. I'd pick, pack, prepare, dispatch. I didn't have to engage, and it suited me just fine. And eBay, if you're listening, thank you very much. No, really, this is my testimony. I'm not going to be here forever. One day I'll be gone, but this will capture it. Thank you, eBay. No, from the bottom of my heart, I genuinely thank you for the opportunity you've given me. Just reduce the bloody fees. Make it a bit fairer for us, equal playing field. And you know, if you've listened to my messages before, you'll kind of understand what I want. But anyway, that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to come on here and capture this moment. I'll be back on later on with another moan though. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Don't forget to smash that like, share and subscribe. You know, I'm trying to do it like the professionals, but anyway, look at that bloody glare in my glasses. That's better. If I stand that way, you can't see the glare, can you? Anyway, check you later. Adios. Bye.